Okay, here I am. Here, I changed my title up here real quick. Had a big issue with trying to get this camera to work that shows my flip inserts. And for some reason it wasn't showing. I had to restart my computer to get it to show. But here we are. This is roll reveal number 252. It's going to be 1958 D plastic tube roll. Not really even sure where I got this one, but coins looked pretty nice, so I decided, well, let's go for it. See what happens. It's 9 minutes after 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, the 12th of March. Don't forget to set your clocks ahead 1 hour this weekend. That's my public service announcement for today. We got Eric Beyer, Midnight Silver Run, Military Coinage. Hello, Military Coinage. Welcome to the channel. And here we go. Coin number one. Coin number one is going to go to Joe McBride. Joe McBride here. Let's see what we've got. It looks like we might have something up inside the upper part of the mint mark here. It's kind of difficult to tell real well. No, I think that's going to be a part of that heavy die scratch down to the southwest of the D. Looks like it's connected to that die scratch and is just another part of it. So let's keep looking around on the coin, see what else we come up with, if anything. Glad to be back to doing roll reveals. There was a period of time that I couldn't get any of them done because of, well, let's just say personal issues. Number of different things going on that kept me from being able to come online for a broadcast. Kind of immediate things kind of popped up that are not enjoyable things. In fact, today my wife is attending the funeral of her uncle. Happens to be his birthday. So a funeral on his birthday. Not good. Steve A. Number two. Coin number two. Steve gets this one. Let's see what Steve gets out of here. Okay, I'm not seeing anything on this one. For the mint mark. No doubled I. No other doubling that I can make out on the obverse. I'm going to go ahead and skip the reverses on these. There are no known doubled die reverses for 1958D, but I will check them. For sure, I will check them as I'm going back through the roll. Hey, Texas Joe. What I'm really looking for on the 1958Ds is more just around the mint mark area, and I'm trying to pull RPMs out of this. And then the eyelid, the doubled eyelids, are relatively common for this particular issue. But there's not really anything else that is known to be looking for. So we check the coins reverses once in a while to see if there might be something on here. Looking for doubling, especially in the center of the design for class 4 doubling. Class 4 is offset hub doubling, north, south, east, or west, something to that effect. Generally, doubling shows up only in the center of the design because, well, the dies start out a conical shape before they actually get pressed into a full working die. And so you have this little triangle of a cone up the top. And the first couple of hubbings don't actually flatten that out all the way. So first couple of hubbings are off, then any hubbings that follow that are perfectly centered or correctly aligned will be a doubling from those original hubbings, which will only show in the center part of the design. Hope that made a little bit of sense. It started sounding a little Chinese as I was getting finished with it there. This appears to be a minor RPM. I think this is the same die as the coin I just pulled, and I kind of dismissed that one, but I think this one does show, yep, it shows a split serif, a split upper serif there. Let me see if I can get this to zoom in. There we go. You see that split right there on the upper serif? That is a repunch mint mark. Oops, I'm going to get it focused in here. There we go. There's our focused. On the brow was there was a hit on the coin. On the brow. On this coin or the previous one? So this one's normal. The last one had a hit on the brow. I'm going to pull this one out, set it off to the side, see if it's something I can identify, get listed later on. But that's going to be number 5 for Joe McBride. Let me check coin number 4 again. Check coin number 4 and see if I had the same thing going on. And I did. Yep, that's the same die. I can tell this is the same die by all those little raised dots that you see in and around the mint mark, especially the one just to the left of the top of the mint mark. That's going to be my primary marker in determining any other coins in this roll that would happen to have that same issue. Yeah, and the brow has a hit, so that's what's wrong with the brow area. I am on the Dynamite, Eric. I'm not using the other scope until I get a little more comfortable with the idea that it's not going to flicker out on me. Alright, coin number 6, Tim Morrell. Tim Morrell will get this one. You guys might just, if I'm really quiet, you might be able to hear my dog snoring behind me. He loves to snore. That's what he does about 17 hours out of the day. Really, really hard life that dog leads. He has to get up to eat. He has to get up to go outside and pee. He has to get up to go outside for a walk. He has to get up to play. The rest of the time he can sleep. And right now, well, right now is a good time for him to sleep. Paul Hampton gets the next coin. It's coin number 7. What else do we have in here now? We've got Techstar, we've got Farm Dog, we've got Coin Junkie, Daddy Mods, Joe McBride, Eric, Farm Dog, let's see, Coin Junkie, Javier Rojas, Chad Brookman. Yeah, you can hear my dog snore. If my chair was any closer, my chair is basically all the way across the room from us. So if my chair was any closer, he would actually get in the way. Now, you guys might have heard, or might be familiar with, a 1958 Lincoln cent, both the Philadelphia and Denver mint marks that are listed in Breen's catalog as having a 8/7. It's a 58/7. Those were listed in Breen's catalog back in 1981 when Breen finished his catalog. However, they have since been rebuked as die scratches or die gouges, and that's exactly what you're looking at here. If you look up in the upper right corner of the 8, you'll see that there appears to be a point, and then there's some lines that kind of run down into the A, and it kind of sort of almost looks maybe like a part of a 7. And Mr. Breen saw this and recorded that this was an 8/7. And as it turns out, this is a gouge. It's probably a master die gouge that shows on a number of different dies. And so it is actually nothing. And the Breen listing is no longer actually considered a variety at all. Although you will find them sometimes in annex holders because people want to have the Breen number on them. Then they get that Breen number on them and people assume that anything with a Breen number is valuable, and this is not true. This is one of those cases. There is no premium value associated with this, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. Now you see that little bit of doubling up on the top left of the 8? That is actually master die doubling. It is hub doubling. You found 2 dimes struck with quarter dies yesterday. Is this Canadian or American? Yeah, let's see, there's a couple of die scratches there. Might have just a little tiny bit of a double die going on here below the B. Trying to get it cranked around so I can see it real well, and it looks like there's just not enough there to call. I was looking at that little mark right on the bottom left of the B. It looks like there could be a little ridge there, and sometimes, so they're Canadian. Awesome. That's really cool. Get me some pictures. I'd love to see them. But yeah, that's what we've got there. Let me take a look at the reverse on this one real quick. While we're already wasting a lot of time on one coin, we may as well just waste a little bit more. Nope, nothing else there. That's not a waste. If anybody learned anything, it's not a waste. But that's for Paul Hampton, coin number 7. Tends to be a normal coin. I'm going to stick that in here. Now coin number 8. Dennis Paulson. Dennis gets coin number 8, and this one. So all these coins are a nice bright BU. They don't look nearly as nice when you look at them under the scope as they do when you look at them in hand, because, well, I don't know, the appearance of the luster just doesn't transfer over very well when you put it under a scope. And the second thing is that all these little tiny marks show up. And it looks like the coin's just hideous under the scope, but you pull it out from under the scope and, well, actually it doesn't look anywhere near as bad. There's a little tiny struck through right there. Actually, it's nowhere near as bad as it looked under the scope. In fact, most of these little marks are invisible to the naked eye. And that's kind of how they grade. They grade with a 5x loop at most. Most graders just look at the coin and grade it. Most graders don't use a loop unless they need to ascertain something or to prove something one way or the other, or whatever it is they need to do. They'll use a loop when they need to, but most of the time they don't. Are you talking about the ones that I sent to you? You got a 14S in there? That's awesome. That's really awesome. Here's another one of those little RPMs. You can tell there's a little dot next to the top of the mint mark, and you can see the upper surface split. So this is going to be a third example of that particular die variety. Pull it off to the side, see if I can find anything to list this with. So that's good. There's Jeff Dunn. Jeff Dunn, that's coin number 9. Jeff Dunn will pull off with this one. Now let's take a look at the next one. That's going to be coin number 10. Who gets it? Bulldog. Bulldog comes up with coin number 10. This is coin number 10. If I miss anybody's questions or I miss anybody's comments, please let me know that I'm missing comments. I have the chat open, but I'm not always looking at it because I'm trying to pay really close attention to these coins. And although this is something I more or less do for a living and can pretty much do it in my sleep, there's a little die crack right there. A little die crack from the rim running over to the center of the right wheat. It's interesting. Although I could probably do this in my sleep, I still have to pay attention. I still have to have my eyeball on the coin. If I don't have my eyeball on the coin, then I can't possibly catch everything. And so I may catch some of the messages and not others. Well, part of it's the light, and part of it is that you're looking way too closely at the coin when it's zoomed in that far. So let's do this. I'll give you a good look. Hang on a second. Let me pull my scope out so that I can adjust it. Okay. Now I've pulled it out so that I can adjust it way up. And we're going to take a look at it like this. This is going to be coin number 11 now. This goes to Jim Fletcher. And we will look at, that's a little die gouge right there in the eye. It's the same die that we've already seen before. So this one doesn't have a die variety on. I can tell by those little die scratches under the U of trust. We don't have anything on this coin. So let's take a look. We've got a little gash next to the mouth. We've got a couple of little tiny gashes up there on the cheek. Got a little gash out in front of the nose. Looks like a little spot out in front of the mouth. I mean, it looks like, it looks like a very typical coin. We've got hit on the rim. We've got a gash below the E. We've got a nice little gash over here underneath the L. I mean, we're talking about a 65 to 66 level coin at best. But that's not actually how they look at it. Let me show you how they look at it. They look at it like this. Oops. And this is how they get it. You see how pretty that is? It's a really nice looking coin. But under a scope, man, it's got all kinds of little problems. That's why you don't use a microscope to grade coins. Even at this level. Still a very nice looking coin. A few spots here and there. No big deal. I mean, it's relatively normal. I mean, it's a very nice looking coin. So this is what I say when I say that these coins are actually really nice looking. I have to tell you that and remind you that when you're looking at them at this level, you're seeing every flaw on the coin, which is way more than you would see if you were grading them professionally, because professional graders don't look at them that close. They simply don't. Let's see, let me pop the chat out here real quick. I'm going to move it over to the other side of the screen where I'm used to looking at it. I'm going to shift a couple of things around just a little bit here. Give me a little bit of time and I'll be right into things here. You can listen to my dog snore. I'll give you that for a minute. That's entertainment. Here we go. Okay, so I'm back. Wow, I can't believe, well, I mean, I can believe because those coins are unsearched, Techstar. They are unsearched. So that you found a 14S in there, I mean, that 14S, even in good condition, a 14S is a $20 coin, so you got your money back out of it. That's for sure. And this one's going to be coin number 12. This goes to Eric Beyer. Okay, I got nothing under the D. No eyelid. Nothing over here. There's one double die for a 1958D that shows on the top of the 9. You pull it over and it shows on the bottom of the B of Liberty. That's DDO number 1. Interesting little DDO. It doesn't have a whole lot of value, but they're always nice to find. Had doubling on the stars. You know how about doubling on the stars of a Morgan dollar? Sometimes that can be rather common. Sometimes it's machine doubling, and other times there could be some die wear that's causing what appears to be doubling on the stars. But if it's actual hub doubling on the stars, it has some value. People do collect doubled dies in the Morgan dollar series. In fact, the Morgan dollar series is arguably the second most collected series of coins in world history. The most collected being the Lincoln cent, of course. I think a lot of that has to do with lack of general population of the coins, because the Morgan dollars were minted in far smaller quantities than Lincoln cents, and the other thing has to do with its expense. You know, these days, especially now, you're buying Morgan dollars, you're talking about $20 to $30 a coin to start, and then you go up with rarity and condition and other things of note. But with Lincoln cents, you can start Lincoln cent collection with well, with pocket change. You know, 1 penny a piece. That's all they're going to cost you. And you move up from there. I mean, there's Lincoln cents that are over $30,000, $40,000 a piece. So you have a wide range of different things that you can collect with Lincoln cents. I've coached people on collecting Lincoln cents for many, many years. And I generally tell people this: stick with what you like. If you like wheat pennies, then don't bother with memorials. If you like something that you can complete for just a little bit of money, well, work on the shield pennies first. Working on actually finding a full set of shield pennies from 2010. There's one of our RPMs right there. From 2010 all the way up to 2021, and finding coins that are very, very nice, you know, very high gem coins, could actually be a challenge, because a lot of the coins don't come out in high gem condition. Well, this one's for Jim Fletcher too. I think Jim Fletcher's got 2 of these now, I think. Let's see. No, That was Sir Egg, Joe McBride, and Jeff Dunn. Now Jim Fletcher gets one. So Jim's in that little club of people who are getting nice looking coins out of this. Here's Tim Morrell. Tim Morrell gets coin number 16. Self-focus back in here. This is a die I haven't seen before. It's got all these real strong die scratches out. So let's take a look at it. And we'll even flip this one over and look at the reverse, just to be sure we're not missing anything. No mistakes, just happy accidents. Okay, nothing on this side. So that becomes another normal coin in the roll. Keep getting the circle. You mean the circle of... what are we talking about, archaeology, Mikey? Coin number 7, Shannon McCord. Shannon McCord gets this one. Hello, Bill. I wish I had a roll of 09 SVDBs. I'd even take them in good condition. They don't even have to be mint. This is another RPM. It's a different one, I think. Nope, it is. It's the same one. Same one. I thought it was different there for a second. Same RPM again. So Shannon McCord's going to get one of them. Coin number 17. Oh, buffering while I'm doing this, that's because of a bad connection. You might want to refresh your connection. If you refresh the show, it'll come right back, and it will probably not be buffering if you have a decent internet connection otherwise. Adam Connor. Adam Connor comes up next, and Adam Connor will get, it looks like a normal 1958D Lincoln cent here. Yeah, we've already seen this die a few times. You know what those scratches under the U, you know what that means. It means we picked ourselves up another normal coin. A nice little die gouge out next to the L, above the L of Liberty. It's a heck of a die gouge coming out of there, going straight up. Just interesting. Bill, I will check, and if I have not, I promise you I'll get it out today. Because I think I have everybody's stuff packed up and gone, but if I don't, I will be sure to take care of you today. Deang comes up next. I've got all the bulk of all of the rolls and stuff shipped out now. Yep, there's another one from that same die, so we can basically just skip this one. Decent coin, not the best condition, but it is decent. It does have those die scratches under the U of trust. Archaeology, you can look for an 09 at a show anytime you want to go to a show. I mean, that would be fine, but I carry them as well. Just to let you know. If you don't find anything at the show, come back to me. Okay, this one's going to be a normal one. This is going to be coin number 20. It goes to Wanda, who does not happen to be here now because she probably doesn't know this show is on yet. Alright, this one goes to Wanda. Coin number 21 now. Coin 21 goes to Adam Chambers. Adam Chambers gets one of the RPMs. Has some damage on that 9 of the date, but that upper split serif is unmistakable, as is the little dot next to it. We definitely have another example of that RPM. I do not have Indian cents most of the time. I don't have any right now. The only thing I do have is a couple of culls, or bent coins, or ugly coins. The ones that aren't worth selling. Yo man, coin number 22. Now he's getting louder. think you can hear him. He's not even turned this direction. He's snoring toward the wall. So all that you hear has to echo off the wall. Alright, coin number 23, Farm Dog. If I'm quiet enough, you can always hear him. There's another one of our RPMs there. Not like I'm trying to let the dog sleep. I mean, he sleeps 17 hours a day, and he could always move to a different room if he doesn't like the way I sound. By your grandfather at the late 1800s house. Wow. I've hunted a few late 1800s houses before, and I just thought it was very interesting. It was very nice. I found an 1865 2-cent piece up next to a house. I also found a, believe it or not, a silver 3-cent out in front of my great aunt's house up in Ohio. That was interesting and fun. 3-cent silver is even smaller than a dime. This must have been an Ender coin at one time because it has some nice reverse toning on it. And this one's going to Eric Beyer. Well, there we go with that. It is a normal coin, though. It doesn't have a repunch mint mark on it. Hey, talk real briefly. I know I have some relatively fresh collectors here. I want to talk very briefly about the difference between a die variety and an error. There actually is a difference. Not all of the coins that you're calling errors are actually errors. When you find a coin that has something that was created on the die as the die was being made, such as doubling in the form of date doubling, mint mark doubling, or doubling of the design itself, that was actually, wow, look at that, big old die gouges under there. That was actually created on the die as the die was being created. So that all of the coins that die makes have those same marks on them. Of course, they'll wear with time, but it will still have the same marks on them because it started off as a part of the design on the die and continues as a part of the design on the die. That is a die variety. That's what we call a die variety. So if you have a repunch mint mark, a repunch date, an over date, a doubled die, all of those things are going to be called die varieties. Now, there's another term called variety. It's not die variety, it is variety. Variety is a wider scope than a die variety. A variety is anything that was intended to be changed as it was, but was not intended for you to notice it. So it wasn't intended to be collected as such, but it was intended to be done, such as the large letters and small letters 1858 Flying Eagle cents. That's in one of our RPMs there. They intended to change the design because it's an obvious design change, but at the same time they didn't necessarily mean for you to notice it. They just wanted you to notice that it was an 1858 and that was it. So those are collectible as varieties, as are different mint mark styles, different date sizes, different letter sizes, minor changes such as the arrows and rays on quarters and dimes and other coins. Those are all varieties. They're subtype varieties. Die varieties are doubling in the design. Doubled mint marks, doubled dates, doubled this, doubled that. And that is created on the die as the die is being created. Now we move over to errors. Errors come in three different types. Errors come in planchet errors, errors come in die errors, and errors come in striking errors. And coincidentally, the first letter of those turns up to spell out PDS, which is the mints that make our current coins, other than the West Point mint, of course. I mean, don't be too technical about it, but all of our pennies are made PDS. And so you can remember it that way. P is for planchet, D is for die, and S is for strike. Planchet errors are things that are screwed up on the planchets before they're put into the press to mint coins. Things that are they're broken planchets, centered planchets. You've got clip errors where the planchet was clipped improperly and has a piece missing out of it. You have split layers, laminations, other things like that. Those are planchet errors. Then you have the die errors. Die errors are things that develop on the die as the coin, or as the die is minting coins. So you make 100,000 coins with a die, and over time, that die is going to break. It's going to take on clash marks. It's going to take on cracks and chips and other things. And those would be classified as die errors. And the difference basically between a die error and a die variety is that a die variety is on the die the very moment it's hung to be used. That doubling is already there before it makes its first coin. Now with a die error, what you're talking about is something that develops on the coin develops on the die as the die is being used. So any completely normal die that suddenly breaks along the edge and a piece falls out, that's called a cud. So you go from having normal coins to having a cud on the same die. So your scratches and other markers could be the same, but you can have an example of a die pre-cud and post-cud. That's a die error. We're going back through seeing dies that we've seen before here, so I'm not really mentioning much of anything about these coins, and you can see the name of the person they go to over here. So then there's strike errors. Strike errors are things like broad struck, where they're struck out of color. You've got partial color strikes. You've got double struck. You've got double struck out of color. You've got saddle strikes. Anything where the strike was not correct. You've got struck through die caps. You've got flip over double struck coins. There's a lot of different strike errors, and they all have to do with some sort of damage done to the coin as it was being struck in the chamber. So it is damage, but it's damage that was done at the mint that was supposed to be pulled away from production and just wasn't. It was left in the production coins, and they end up going out to the bank or into the bags or however they get to you, and you just end up with them. So there you have basically everything. You have die varieties, which involve doubling on a die prior to the time that the die was hung to be making coins. You've got varieties, which are intended design changes that the mint makes that are noticed later by collectors, like the 1960D large and small dates, or the 1970S large and small dates. Those are varieties. And then you have errors: planchet errors, die errors, and strike errors. That, folks, is our little lesson for this particular show. We're up to coin number 34 now. Party Pickle gets his one coin. Chad, you have a 50-50 shot at it either being a double die or being machine doubling. Because it's on the obverse and the reverse doesn't mean anything. You could have either. You could have double die on both sides. You could have a double die on one side, machine doubling on the other side. Machine doubling is simply a coin that was struck with a loose die, and that loose die tends to rattle a little bit as it's being struck, so it kind of shakes up the design a little bit and produces a little bit of flat doubling. Whereas double dies, as we've just discussed, double dies actually come from the creation of the die itself. So all the coins struck with that die have that doubling on them, and that turns out to be called hub doubling or double dies. Hub doubling and a double die are the exact same thing. It's an interchangeable term. Hello, Coin Captain. Who will take over Wexler when he retires? No idea. I do not know. I know that he has someone working on RPMs now and working on trying to clean up the RPM system. There's another one of our RPMs. I have my own system, my own thing, my own gig, my own website, so I don't I do like John. I think he's a great guy, but I don't delve in his business. Major changes by the Minter terms type. So Eisenhower dollars are one type, Susan B. Anthony dollars are a different type. But when you talk about the 1853 quarters with arrows and rays and the 1853 quarters which are not with arrows and rays, they're all the type Cedar Liberty quarters. But they have two different varieties for that year, or two different varieties for that series. You've got the variety that has, generally varieties all occur within a single year. But varieties can also name any difference that was not necessarily made to be noticed on a coin's design. So you're correct and you're not correct. You are correct, Dennis, in that major changes of design are called types. Right, motto and no motto. Those are subtypes. If you want to get really technical, types are different coins. So you have Lincoln cent is a type. A subtype of Lincoln cent is a wheat cent, a memorial cent, a shield cent. Those are subtypes. Then when you talk about varieties, you have large dates and small dates. You have trumpet tail mint marks and ball serif mint marks. So there really is a different term for everything. And those terms are not really interchangeable. And the reason those terms are not interchangeable is because you have different people who collect the different things in different ways. So for instance, I personally am a die variety collector. I don't really care that much about errors. I don't collect errors. I don't really have much to do with errors unless I happen to get one in my hands and then I turn it over and sell it. I don't collect them. I don't keep them. Die varieties I do like. Varieties are just a note. They're like a footnote. Varieties aren't really anything special. I mean, yeah, sure, a 1960 Philadelphia small date is a variety, and it is a scarce variety, but it's still just a variety. There's millions of them out there. They're not that hard to find. I have many rolls of them. They're expensive, but they're not really hard to find. Here's Deanne. What did Deanne get here? Is that? Looks like could be an RPM. Variety, yeah. No, RPMs are not errors. RPMs are die varieties. Die varieties because they are on the die when the die is hung to make coins. Every single coin struck by that die is that die variety. Errors are not something that is repeated on every coin struck by a particular die. Shannon McCord. Shannon McCord comes up next here. What do we have for Shannon? Looks like I don't have anything special, unfortunately. It's a very nice looking coin, though. Just doesn't really have anything special on it. So we're going to move on. That's coin number 43. I've got another show scheduled at 2:30. It's going to be reveal number 253. It's a 1959 D roll. Take a look at it and see what we can find. I've got a show scheduled every hour and a half. for the remainder of the daylight hours. And then tonight at 8 p.m. we will do the box reveal. That'll be a fun little game that we'll play. We've got 100 tubes in a box that all have something inside the tube telling us what roll a person's going to get. I draw their name out of the hat, they tell me what number to pull, and I pull that number out of the box, and they get whatever the piece of paper inside says they get. I've got all the rolls for this sitting off to the side, ready to go. That'll be today at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hello, Rhonda. Got Sureg coming up next here. That's coin number 46. Number 46 is a normal coin. Yes, I did mention that at the beginning of the show. I will mention it again, and for every show that we have prior to Saturday night. Remember, Saturday night when you go to bed, set your clocks ahead 1 hour unless you live in parts of Indiana and Arizona where they don't participate. Doing great, Rhonda. And you, I hope you're doing well. The drawing, Chad, is something that was already paid for on Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening during the Tuesday evening auctions, and I will be selling those spots during the Tuesday evening auctions in all the weeks that I will be carrying a box reveal. The reveals, these coins here, these were determined also by sales that happened on Tuesday evening at the Tuesday evening auction. Yeah, Bill, they've been saying that for years. And for Chad, mint marks were on Lincoln cent dies. They changed with different purposes and different denominations, but on Lincoln cent dies, the mint mark was placed into the die by hand until 1990. 1990 was the first year that they were actually in the master die. Nothing going on here. Now that was for the business strike coins, but for the proof coins, they actually hand placed the mint marks in the proof dies, the S mint marks in the proof dies, until 1985. 1985 was a year that they changed that over to the master die. So it depends on what kind of coin, what denomination of coin. They did it in different years, mostly between around 1985 and 1990. Shannon McCord comes up now. Next to the last coin in the roll, let's see what it is. And it's another one of our RPMs. It does have a little black spot above the 9.5 of the day. It's a little carbon spot. So you got another little carbon spot over there. So we have a few carbon spots. This was very close to the end of the roll. But it is one of our RPMs. Split upper serif. We'll probably be listing this RPM. And Techstar comes up with coin number 50. This is the last coin in the roll. And it is another one of the RPMs. For those of you who just joined us, we are pretty much finished with the broadcast, so I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with this RPM. Hang on just a second. Let me get this in focus. You can see there's a nice little split on the upper serif of the mint mark. You see that little split that represents one D punched directly over another D with just a little tiny bit of room to spare. And if you look over just to the left of that split upper serif, you'll see a raised dot. That's a little bit of damage on the die. That was a dot that came through as a raised dot on all the coins that we have in this roll struck by that die. Now, the RPM itself, the doubling of the mint mark, was on this die when the die was placed in the press to be used to mint coins. But that little dot probably developed on the die after the die was placed into use. So if we want to use our analogy and go full bloom with our technology and our talking here, the D mint mark and the doubling on the D mint mark is a die variety that is an RPM, and that little dot next to the D would, if anything, would be a die error, because it would be something that would develop on the die as the die was being used. But what we call it is a marker. We call it a marker because it's some minor form of damage that helps show all the little lines and creases and everything in the die that are not necessarily what belong there and would be unique to this one die. So for instance, if I was going to use a full set of markers, I've got these little lines running south out of the D. They're part of the flow lines, but they're very heavy. And then I've got actually 3 dots to the left of the D mint mark. And then I've got a small die crack on the 9. You can see that small die crack running up the tail of the 9. So there's a number of things right next to the date and mint mark that I can use as markers to determine that one is the same as the next. Hey Tim, you got plenty more coming up though. This one's about over, but we've got plenty more coming up. So you only missed the body of this one. We're down to the end now, and I'm going to show you what we ended up with. We ended up with a number of die varieties here. We have number 50, number 49, number 41, 37, 27, 23, 21, 19, 17, 15, 9, 5, and 4. And I'll flip through these real quick to show you who they go to. There's Sureg, there's Joe McBride, Jeff Dunn, Jim Fletcher, Shannon McCord, Deanne, Adam Chambers, Farm Dog, Paul Hampton, Joe McBride, Mike Birchman, Shannon McCord, and Techstar. I think, yeah, Joe McBride ended up with 2 of these. I think Shannon might have 2. Yep. Joe McBride and Shannon have 2 apiece. So there's that. I've only got 30 minutes until I start my next broadcast, so I have to get myself ready and get everything together. So I am going to take off for now, and I will see you guys at roll reveal number 253 in about 34 minutes. You guys have a great afternoon. For those I don't see again, have a great evening, and I'll talk to you later.